this week's F1 News Zone, we look at why Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso were so infuriated after the Hungarian Grand Prix, why the new contract clause in Helmut Marko's contract to Red Bull will mean that Max Verstappen is going to stay at that team for the foreseeable future. And we also question whether Adrian Newey leaving Red Bull has already signalled a downturn for the team, and whether Lando Norris's nice guy image has been eradicated after the Hungarian Grand Prix. We've got it all here on the F1 News Zone. So the Hungarian Grand Prix this afternoon was a very eventful race. It was a very entertaining race, and there were some controversial incidents in it for sure. And something kind of crossed my mind while I was watching this race, and I wasn't the only one who thought this as well. And on top of that as well, another thought crossed my mind more broadly of that question, and it's really, is Max Verstappen feeling the pressure? Because despite his lead in the championship, he's got a 76-point lead in the championship over Lando Norris, even after today, even after he finished in 5th position and Norris finished in 2nd. You know, that's pretty much a 3-race victory kind of lead. I mean, Verstappen would have to retire from the next 3 Grand Prix, and Norris would have to win all 3 of them, and even then, if he didn't get a fastest lap or 2, he would still be behind him. So really, he shouldn't be feeling the pressure for me. I mean, Max has been in championship fights now for the last 4 years, and to be honest with you, last year was not really a fag at all. He was that good, and that's the mark of someone who is a great champion, someone who can really dominate a season overall. But you know, Austria a little bit kind of made me wonder about Verstappen's temperament, and this race in Hungary really made me wonder about his temperament even more. I mean, some of the things he was saying on the radio. I mean, Max has always been hard on his engineers. That is nothing new. But I feel like the level of anger he was subjecting his race engineer to, who Giampiero, I forget his name now, but GP, that's why I just know him as GP, as most people say is. You know, he normally kind of can put up with a lot of this, but it sounded like to me GP just got tired of it. He was just like, you know what, I'm not going to bother speaking to you because, you know, I'm not going to play these silly mind games on the radio. I'm sure he said something about that. And when your race engineer's not sticking up for you, when your race engineer's just for, you know, I'm going to disengage with the situation, you know, there's a problem there. You know, there's something going on that is on a level that we don't normally experience, even for Verstappen. And, you know, Verstappen's had controversial incidents in the past, not least with Sir Lewis Hamilton, who was involved in this one again today. You know, with 7 laps to go in the race, Verstappen did a lunge down the inside of Hamilton. Hamilton was lapping Williams. Maybe Verstappen thought that was his chance to kind of pounce, and pounce he did. And I'm just going to replay the incident now on the screen here. And, you know, Hamilton's going to take the corner, and he actually looks like he steers out of it because Verstappen does an almighty lunge. And when the two of them are level, Verstappen is locking up. I can see the tyre smoke on his tyre, you know. And some might say that, Hamilton should have steered out of it. Hamilton shouldn't have hit Verstappen. But Hamilton's got to try and go for the corner. He's got to do it. Otherwise, he's going wide as well. And they make contacts. Verstappen nearly somersaults his car. It flies up in the air, bounces back down. Verstappen ends up losing a spot to Charles Leclerc, drops down to 5th place as a result. And Verstappen, in truth, was quite lucky that he was able to continue, really. For me, going into the corner, the general rule of thumb is that if you're ahead going into the corner, it's your corner. But there are situations when that is not the case, and particularly when the car behind is locking up and out of control of the car. Because if you've locked up your car, you are, by definition, out of control. If you're out of control, you don't really have a right to say that, that was my overtake, that was my move. Verstappen probably never would have even made the corner at all, even if there was no contact. I think he would have still run wide, and Hamilton could just sit down the inside. And perhaps you could argue that Hamilton should have done that, but at the same time, it was a dangerous move from Verstappen. But something that's kind of on my mind with this, and I saw a comment on Facebook about it. I'm going to read it out. I don't have the guy's name or where it was posted. I do apologise. Whoever you are, I think you've done a good analysis of this. But let me just read off Verstappen's radio here. GP said, "Well, that's some gentle introduction." And then Verstappen replies with, "No, mate, don't give me that rubbish. You guys gave me this rubbish. Strategy, okay. I'm trying to rescue what's left. Bleep." So he's not very happy, and he's swearing on the radio, and it's getting quite bad. By the way, something that I want to highlight as well, is that the incident between Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton is officially no further action from the stewards, so no one's getting a penalty with that one. I think if anybody should get a penalty, it should be Verstappen, but I do feel like him losing a spot and not being able to actually go for the podium is punishment enough. Personally, I'm sure there'll be some people who disagree with that. But there's someone here on Facebook who's been likening Verstappen's conduct and linking it back to childhood trauma. And I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm not going to get into the allegations about Jos Verstappen and Max Verstappen. Okay, I'm not going to do that. That's just something for you guys to go down a rabbit hole with if you want. But with the way he's acting and the way he's lunging out when he doesn't really need to be, you know, if Alan Prost was in the position that Max Verstappen was back in the day, Prost would be, you know, conserving a lot of these positions and not making dive-bomb moves like this. But Verstappen has this desperate will to win that is beyond anybody I've seen. Even Schumacher, even Senna. This is just this feels like it's something else motivating him, and it's almost. And I think this guy on Facebook has actually hit the nail on the head. It's some sort of trauma. It's all linked to his childhood potentially. And I'm not saying that is it, but the evidence kind of suggests that that's the case, and Verstappen might need some therapy. And, you know, I don't know whether he is having therapy. That's something that the status does not say, whether he's having therapy. We don't know. We don't know what Verstappen does in his private life. That's his business. He might be having therapy. We don't know. But the way he's acting is very concerning, and it's something that probably merits an even longer discussion, something I can't do in a video like this. I've already run over time massively compared to what I normally do, but it adds up for me. And I think Verstappen is feeling the pressure, not necessarily from his competitors, but from himself, from his own kind of his own trauma, his own inner demons almost. And that's really sad. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. A lot of people agree with this person who put this comment, and I do as well. I think it's spot on, to be honest. But yeah, that's my take on it all. You know, a bit of a sad, controversial incident. It makes the championship more alive in F1, of course, but don't like it when it's like this. It just feels a bit off. But that's my take personally. What's your guys? Let me know in the comments below. Something that's gone under the radar in the wake of the Hungarian Grand Prix is the team orders battle that's been going on, not between McLaren drivers, but between Aston Martin's drivers. Now, this first came to my attention shortly after the race. I saw a video that someone had filmed from, I'm presuming, the paddock club at the Hungarian Grand Prix, because it was in like the balcony area above the pit lane. And there was Fernando Alonso down there getting weighed, and he looked absolutely livid. I mean, he was speaking to George Russell, and I was thinking, has George Russell done something to Fernando out on the track or something? Like, what's he actually done here? I mean, Fernando was angry for sure, but it was nothing to do with George Russell. It was actually due to some team orders by Aston Martin and how they were implemented and how they weren't followed. So, for those that don't know, during the race, Fernando Alonso was in 10th place going into the closing stages behind Yuki Tsunoda in the RB, who was in 9th. Now, Lance Stroll, at the time, was faster. I believe he was on some quicker tyres, some fresher tyres, something like that. And the team basically said to Alonso, right, Stroll is faster than you. You know, Fernando, he's faster than you. I don't expect to hear that, really, but you know, they said that Stroll's faster than you. We've got a chance to overtake Yuki Tsunoda ahead. Let him by, and if he doesn't overtake Yuki, you can go back into 10th place. But obviously, if he does overtake Yuki, that's good points for the team. And Fernando was like, yeah, no problem. Good idea, lads. Or the Spanish equivalent. So Lance Stroll tries to get Yuki Tsunoda, tries to pass him, but is unable to do so. And the end of the race comes, and Stroll does not give the place back, and he doesn't follow team orders. Now, at the end of the day, this is one point, but it's not about that. It's about the principle of it. It's about being able to trust your teammate. And going off this, Alonso can't really trust Stroll. Now, in the past, they have done some quite good team orders. Like, Stroll's been like, no, I'm not going to fight Fernando ahead. Let him just concentrate on the guy in front of him. Let him try and pass. And Alonso's said similar things as well about Stroll. Surprisingly, they've actually been quite good teammates. You know, criticise Stroll all you want, but they have been good teammates. But this is really bad, this, because you add it to the fact that, obviously, we have to say it because it's true, his dad owns the team. Lance Stroll's dad, Lawrence Stroll, owns the team. He is a team boss. So, is Lance going to face repercussions from this? No, probably not. And this is going to really enrage Alonso, because there have been times in the past when they've done team orders like this. I mean, I think of Bottas and Hamilton back in 2017, a race I actually attended in person, where Bottas let Hamilton go past to try and attack Kimi Raikkonen ahead. Hamilton couldn't pass Kimi Raikkonen, so Hamilton let Bottas pass through the final corner, despite despite Max Verstappen being in 5th place right behind them as well. It was quite a risky manoeuvre in a sense. You could almost understand it if Hamilton went, no, I'm not risking that. Verstappen's right behind, I didn't get passed by him. But, you know, he did his duty. He was a good teammate, Hamilton, in that regard. But Stroll's not done this. And this is a really dangerous precedent, this, because, you know, now they're not going to be able to trust each other. You know, Aston Martin, in theory, in 2026, when both of those drivers will still be driving for the team, they are both contracted to Aston Martin until 26 at least. So regulation change could come in, that Honda power unit could come in, that could be the fastest car on the grid potentially. You don't know at this stage, it's way too early to say. And if they're in a championship fight or something like crazy like that, Alonso knows now that he can't trust Stroll to do the right thing. He knows that he can't. And it wouldn't surprise me if Alonso's trying to find a way out of the team. I mean, look who's come back into Formula One recently. Flavio Briatore, one of Alonso, I think he's still Alonso's manager, or at least he was recently anyway. Could Alonso find a way out of Aston Martin and go back to Alpine, go back to Enstone for like the 5th time in his career? You heard it here first. But yeah, it's really disappointed from Stroll this. It's been a really bad teammate. It's one thing to be slow and inconsistent, but doing what he did in Hungary is that's just really bad for the team. It's not helping his image at all. It really isn't. I'll defend him when he does well, Stroll, but more often than not I'm criticising him because he just brings this on himself at the end of the day. But guys, what do you think? Let us know your opinions in the comments below. Did you notice this feud happening out on track? I didn't notice it until after the race. It's becoming increasingly apparent that Adrian Newey leaving Red Bull, the entire organisation, at the end of the season is already having an effect on the Formula One team. If you look at the start of the season, Max Verstappen would have comfortably won all of the first 5 races, and he won 4 of them extremely comfortably as well on top of that. And since then, it's not been quite as plain sailing. You know, the car's performance has very much regressed compared to the rest of the field. For me, they no longer have the fastest car in the field. I mean, Helmut Marko came out in the media ahead of the Hungarian Grand Prix and said they have the 3rd fastest car in the grid, behind both McLaren and Mercedes. And it's hard to disagree with that sentiment given the results of the team. And I still think there is definitely an argument to be made that Max Verstappen is overperforming in that car, and the true pace and performance of the car is being shown by Sergio Perez. And if you stick anybody else in that second seat, unless they're like an Alonso or a Hamilton or a Leclerc, they're going to really struggle, and which is possibly why Sergio Perez has had that contract extension for another 2 seasons. But that's a topic for another video. Let's have a look at these high-profile departures from Red Bull. Most notably Adrian Newey, who is of course not staying on beyond this season. His fate and where he's heading is not yet decided, of course, but it's not just Adrian Newey either. Dan Fallows left for Aston Martin. Rob Marshall has gone to McLaren. These are senior figures in the Red Bull organisation, and them being left. I mean, this is the thing. This is the thing with Formula One. It's very interconnected paddock. You know, people move around all the time, and when you're successful, teams are going to offer your staff incredible offers to go, even at the increased wages, and also the fact that you have to pay them gardening leave as well, potentially. They're leaving the team that they're getting it from has to pay gardening leave. You still have to wait to get them for 6 months, a year, however long it's going to be. But yeah, so it's interesting for sure. I mean, former Formula One driver Christian Albers has come out in the media and said, "I've kept hearing it for over a year now. Pierre Vaca is the man. Adrian is nothing." I keep hearing that sort of thing. And by that, he means that, I believe he's saying anyway, I hope he's saying, that Adrian Newey is now not really having an influence on this current Formula One car. He might have had an influence on, definitely had an influence on last year's and this year's at the beginning of the season. But right now, it's kind of reverted back to Vaca, who is officially the head aerodynamicist, I believe, of Red Bull. Adrian Newey is the head of design, I believe. So technically, he's not the main aero guy, which he normally is in teams. He moved to a different role a few years ago at Red Bull. He's been there for so long as well, Newey, hasn't he? He's been there for 20 years nearly now, I think. So no wonder he wants to move on. The truth of the matter is that after a dominant start to the 24 season, news of Newey's departure did coincide with the car's performance decline. There are 2 factors that have played into this role, according to Albers. Newey, who gave a certain philosophy, direction and leadership that functioned so well, and the departure of Rob Marshall. which might have even had a bigger one, we can all see that the performance is no longer coming. They hoped for much more after that car update, and this is the one after Hungary, because Hungary, they brought some updates to the front wing, I believe, and it just didn't work out. If anything, they've regressed. The car looks even worse. It was not a good performance by Verstappen compared to what he was having early in the year. That's part of the reason why he was doing so many desperate lunges, because he had to try and get past. He just couldn't overtake normally like he would before. He'd just stream clear and be like 20 seconds clear by the flag. Now, there is an article on F1 Chronicle.com that goes into this with far more detail than what I can. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think as well, on top of that as well, you've got Adrian Newey who's leaving. So he can't be involved in like next year's car, because that's going to be inside information that he could take to wherever he's going to go next. And Red Bull can't afford to do that. So Pierre Vaca, who has taken over from him, he's going to be the main man, and the pressure's on him. And let's be honest, nobody is Newey. Nobody's had the success of Adrian Newey. Jeremy Clarkson said it so well while he was rather drunk on the grid before the Bahrain Grand Prix. He's backing whoever Adrian Newey is with. And he was absolutely right, as it turned out. Verstappen was miles clear by the finish. So yeah, what do you guys think? Is it just a coincidence, or is Red Bull's declining performance down to Newey leaving at the end of the year? Let us know in the comments below. And where do you think Adrian Newey is, of course, going to head for next season? Because that is still undecided. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, all that good stuff to see much more Formula 1 content just like this. Let's talk about Lando Norris, because there's a lot of things to discuss when it comes to him after the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now, we've already spoke about the reasons why McLaren swapped Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in the last stages of that race. I've already done a review of the race as well, but there is something about Norris, though, that I think needs to be discussed, and that's whether he's lost his nice guy image. Now, the reason why I say this is because there's been a few critics, a few people in the media that have been saying recently that Lando Norris cannot be a world champion because he's too nice. Specifically, Robert Dunboss, who used to be a Formula 1 driver, said that, and there's a few people in the media have said it too. A few of my friends have said it, a few people on Facebook groups have said it. I've seen it talked about a lot during the last few days or so. And it's really caught in the conversation, especially after races like Austria, races like Spain, where arguably Lando Norris should have won both of those races, but he wasn't, in some people's minds, nasty enough, wasn't ruthless enough. And if you look at Formula 1 champions, and look at champions in general, they can be the nicest people outside of the car, or outside of outside of the field, or the pitch, or the pool, or wherever they're competing. But on that field of play, which in the case of Formula 1 is the circuits, it's the paddock, it's the cars, on there, they are beasts, they are animals, they are ruthless, they will destroy you if you try and stop them. Now, love him or loathe him, Max Verstappen definitely has that. Sebastian Vettel, when he was racing, definitely had. Nico Rosberg had that. Lewis Hamilton has that. Fernando Alonso, without a shadow of a doubt, has that in abundance. But does Lando Norris have it? Has Lando Norris got enough to win a world championship in Formula 1? Personally, right now, I don't think he does, personally. But I don't think that's necessarily because he's not got a nasty streak in him. I don't think it's necessarily because of that. I think it's because of his inconsistency at times, his inability to perform under pressure at times. For me, he should have won in Spain. Had he got off the line well, he would have won. In Canada, I think he should have won as well. But this is also down to the team as well, because the team has shown at times it does not know how to win. Until Hungary. Things have changed in Hungary. A 1-2 finish for McLaren, clear by 15 seconds, 20 seconds by the finish, dominated the race in every way, shape and form. But at the end of it, some people are still asking, does he have that nice guy streak? Or more importantly, has he lost that nice guy image? Because Norris got into the lead of the race because of pit strategy, because of what the team did, and the team wanted to revert it. And Norris was like, no, not doing it, mate, basically. He had the same argument that I think it was Nico Rosberg had, or Hamilton had, years ago I think it was actually in Hungary as well, where he was like, look, if he's going to get past me, I'll let him pass, but he's got to catch up. And Norris, to his credit, was like 5 seconds clear of Piastri. He really had to slow down for a long time to let Piastri go back through. And I think in the end, Norris made the right decision. And I also think that McLaren made the right decision too. But is Norris's nice guy image tarnished after this? I think it is, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's going to make a lot of onlookers and people within the sport, people like Red Bull, people like Max Verstappen, kind of sit up and be like, this guy's not really a pushover. He's standing up for himself, just like Verstappen did for a while on radio too. I mean, you probably argue that Verstappen stood up for himself a little bit too much, but he still stood up for himself. That's the thing, he's a pushover. I think Norris in the past perhaps has been perceived as a pushover. I'm not saying he was, but I'm saying he's perceived that way. And if he's been perceived that way by us, the fans, the media, the critics, it's going to be perceived that way by the drivers, the teams, and the people who really matter in Formula 1. So yes, I think Lando Norris's nice guy image, I don't want to say it's gone, because I think he's still a nice guy, but I think it's definitely been tarnished, but I also don't think that's a bad thing. I think it'll help him. And if he's going to become a world champion, because I agree with Dog Boss on this, if he's going to become a world champion, he's got to be ruthless, he's got to be nasty, and he's got to be mean when he's got to be. He can't be perceived to be a pushover, because otherwise people are going to walk all over him. Guys are going to be sending moves down the inside of him all the time, because they know he's going to move out of the way, for example. But what's your guys' take? What do you think? I'm not saying it's a bad thing that he's lost this image. I think it's a good thing for his career, to be honest, but has he lost it? Let us know in the comments below, as always. And of course, keep it subscribed here to the F1Chronicle.com for much more video content on F1 just like this. The saga of Carlos Sainz trying to choose a team for 2025 continues, and he's come out in the media saying that it's not easy, which it's not really a surprise, really, given how long this has gone on for. I mean, he's effectively been looking for a new team to drive for over 6 months now. But yeah, the Spaniard has said that he was initially upset about being excluded from Ferrari's plans for 2025 and beyond, adding that I obviously understand the decision. That decision, of course, being to hire Sir Lewis Hamilton, the most successful driver in Formula 1 history, partnering with the team that's had the most success out of any team in Formula 1 history as well. He continued saying, the opportunity to sign a 7-time world champion and what that can entail is attractive to the team, because it's not just about the success on the track, it's also the branding and marketing, because they're going to make so much. I mean, how many Hamilton Formula 1 Ferrari hats are Ferrari going to sell for Imola and Monza, and all the merchandise and everything like that, and the commercial partnerships that will potentially open as well. I mean, you're going to have Hamilton using like HP laptop and stuff like that, and it's just going to drive revenue to the team. But that's not to diminish how good of a driver he is on the track, and he's proven he can still do it this season as well, obviously winning the British Grand Prix in spectacular fashion. He also went on to tell GQ, that's why when I've looked at it in a reflective way, it hasn't hurt me so much. If someone has to replace me, I'd rather it be him. Fair enough, really. Interesting, Sainz has gone on to say that he doesn't think that Hamilton's any better than him, which I think that's a bit rich. I mean, I do like Sainz, but come on, Hamilton. You'd have to say that Hamilton's better than Sainz. I mean, Sainz has got, what, three victories to his name in Formula 1, which, don't get me wrong, been impressive. Been managing to beat Red Bull when no one else was. But yeah, compared to 104 or whatever it is for Hamilton, I think Hamilton slightly edges that one, to be honest. Sainz also said, honestly, I don't think so. If you ask the other 18 drivers this question, they would answer the same when being asked, is Hamilton better? I don't know about that. I think there's definitely some drivers that would probably admit that Hamilton's better than them. Those being probably like the likes of Logan Sargent, but you would never ever catch Verstappen or Alonso saying that for various reasons. So yeah, there's a few. I mean, we've covered this quite a bit. There's a few offers on the table for Carlos Sainz. Apparently, there's been one from Audi that he's rejected. There's been one from Williams that he is still waiting on, and it's looking likely that Alpine is still his most likely destination. He was in the running for both Red Bull and Mercedes, but because Red Bull have changed the contract for Helmut Marko, that means that Max Verstappen's going to stay with that team likely until at least 2028. There's no chance that he's going to Mercedes. So Red Bull's not changing. Mercedes are probably going to go with Kimi Antonelli after his incredible performance at the Hungarian Formula 2 round this last weekend as well. I've covered both of those topics. If you want to check out the videos for them, they are also on our channel. But yeah, so he's gone on to say, yes, it's one of the few teams I haven't been to yet. Red Bull Racing 2, Mercedes 2. There are 2 or 3 teams that I haven't been to that I might go into the future. I don't know, to be honest. That's when he's talking about Williams. The future still seems to be quite uncertain, so not even I know, to give you an idea. What I do know is that I have been in 5 different teams in these 10 years, and I have very good memories of each team, and I've been in, and I know that if tomorrow the opportunity rises to return to any of these teams, then I can go back. I don't think he's going to go back to RB somehow. I don't see that. One of these teams is Alpine, of course, which he did race for when they were called Renault briefly as well. So yeah, Alpine's still looking like a likely one for him. And there is a full article that goes into far more detail about this than I can during this video. Also some quotes from Jacques Villeneuve was always good for some spicy quotes and opinions on there. So do check that out. The link for the article will be in the description as always. And of course, keep it subscribed and tune in and like and subscribe and ring the bell and everything for all the content for Formula 1 going into the Belgian Grand Prix this weekend. See you for the next one, guys.